Now you're live.
Okay, Ed Mahon here with the YDR at our office, and I'm here with Eric Horst. Talk about the weather today. So, Eric, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? And
Yeah, sure. I'm the director of the Millersville University Weather Information Center. Of course, Millersville has a nationally renowned meteorology program, and I've been here for over 25 years as the director of the Weather Center and the expert forecaster, and we have a tremendous program, 120 meteorology students, a lot of them excited about snow on the way, and so it's an exciting time around the Weather Center, and so I'm here to talk to you about the storm a little bit.
All right, great. And if you're watching from home, you can type your questions into the Hangout, and we will address them. So please write some questions. But first, if you can just give us the latest, what's the latest forecast? What are things looking like?
You bet. Yeah, I don't see any surprises today. You know, sometimes these storms are, day to day, they change their look like a chameleon, but this one's been very consistent. We're going to get a major snowstorm here. It looks like the light snow rolls in across the Mason-Dixon line, moving south to north between 4 and 6 p.m. So there may be some snowflakes for that evening rush hour, but the steadier snow develops as you get on into the evening hours. And I think the real business of this storm, when the heaviest snow falls in York County, probably around 9 or 10 p.m. tonight through 9 or 10 p.m. tomorrow night. So the bulk of the accumulating snow falls in a 24-hour time frame. Now, there will be, of course, blowing and drifting that continues well into Sunday. So the impact overall of the storm will last more like 2 full days.
Okay. And in terms of, do you think is there going to be, is it going to be sleet and sleet as well? Is that is that a possibility or is it expected?
I'll tell you, many of these big storms, they draw a lot of warm air in off the Atlantic, and they do change over to sleet here in the Susquehanna Valley. I think that's more of a threat east of the Susquehanna River, especially as you get over towards Philadelphia. I'm pretty certain they will have a sleet mix in, which will hold down their accumulations a little bit. But I think west of the Susquehanna River, this is all snow, or mostly snow, and it's going to be very heavy at times. I think ground zero for the heaviest snow is going to be northern Virginia, kind of that Skyline Drive area, and then extending up into south central Pennsylvania. I think if you have any readers or folks that live near South Mountain over in Adams and Franklin County, that mountain does very well in this storm. Easterly winds upsloping on the mountain. I think there could be 2 feet plus of snow around the South Mountain area. And maybe there's even a few pockets down in southern York, like towards Hanover or some of those hills down around Shrewsbury. Maybe there's a few spots down there that get in excess of 24 inches. But I think for most of York County and, those southern tier counties of Pennsylvania, it's going to be more 12 to 24, kind of in that range, with the 12 being more up north of the Turnpike, and then the 24 or near that amount, near the Mason-Dixon line. And if I had to make a bet for York City, I'd be thinking 16 or 18.
Okay. And then I guess for some perspective, how long do you think that's, first of all, how long is that, dangerous for driving purposes? I mean,
Right, sure. Well, I've been briefing PennDOT on this all week. In fact, they first heard from me that there was a chance of a storm all the way last week. So they've had a lot of time to prepare. I know the last couple of days they've been out pre-treating the main roads so that when that first snow falls, it won't bond to the road. That helps you out a little bit on the front end of the storm. But I'll tell you, if it's snowing an inch or two an hour, which it will be at times later tonight and Saturday, even with all the PennDOT crews out there, they can't keep up with it. They do a terrific job, but you just can't keep all the roads open. So the best thing for folks is just to stay home tonight and Saturday, let PennDOT do their work. And the good news is the steady snow ends the first half of Saturday night. By midnight, I think for sure the snow is done Saturday night. But there'll be drifting, and the back roads may still be closed well into Sunday. Who knows, maybe beyond Sunday, some of the far outlying roads that get heavily drifted. So poor travel late tonight and Saturday, slowly improving travel on Sunday.
Okay. And then in terms of how you were talking about the roads, how long do you think this could take to clear? I mean, and this is the kind of storm that shuts down mean, schools or other government agencies, during next week?
Well, luckily the storm's hitting into the weekend, so I wouldn't be surprised if schools had a delay on Monday. Okay. Assuming the storm does what I think it's going to do, there may still be some back roads that are drifted shut on Monday. I know from history of these big storms, the classics like the blizzard of '93, the blizzard of '96. We had a big storm in the early 2000s. We had a couple big storms back in 2010. And those storms, the back roads often get drifted, and they're the last to be attended to. So the school districts that have a lot of back roads may have some issues getting open on Monday. But the main roads absolutely will be improving quickly on Sunday. The sun will be out on Sunday. Temperatures will be just above freezing on Sunday, probably 35 degrees for a high temperature. So that will help with chemicals on the roads. The main roads like Route 30 and such, the main arteries will probably be okay as you get into Sunday afternoon and Sunday night and Monday. But the back roads with blowing and drifting over the weekend and them taking time to get opened up after a big storm, there could be some issues with those back roads even into Monday.
And you talked about some of the past big storms. How does this compare to? Can you give us some historical perspective? How does this compare to these?
Right. Well, first of all, big storms here of a foot or more are pretty rare. There's about 4 of them a decade, so they're not something we see every winter. Some people wish they were, but the fact is, if you look at 50 years of snowfall records, which we have to inspect and study, you see that they come on average about 4 times a decade. Now we've had more than our share in the past decade. We've done better than that. But in any case, they're fairly rare events. An event that drops 2 feet of snow happens about once a decade. So that's an even more of a rare event. This storm, again, I'm not sure it meets the 2-foot criteria for most of your viewers or readers. I think there will be some pockets in southern York County, and again, more likely over towards South Mountain, that could have 24 inches or a bit more. So again, I don't want to say that everybody's seeing 2 feet, because some places may only see 12 or 16 out of this. But still, 1 to 2 feet, that's a big time event.
And then just a quick note from one of the producers here. So it seems like our question Q&A thing is having some difficulties. Oh, so some of you might be seeing it. But you can also try tweeting at us at ydr.com, and we'll try to get your questions in. Wanted to ask for a science lesson. I guess if you can explain what causes these. Why do these big?
Sure. Yeah, I'll tell you. These are, of course, students come to Millersville or Penn State to study meteorology for 4 years to really understand the atmosphere and the complexities of winter storms and hurricanes and thunderstorms. They're something that an amateur can follow as a hobby, but not ever grasp the nuances and the complexities of these storms. It requires a 400 level type meteorology to really explain the nuts and bolts. But the ingredients that go into this storm will usually multiple jet stream disturbances. This winter, the past few weeks, we've been tracking 3 branches of the jet stream: the Arctic, the polar, and the subtropical jet, all of which are feeding across the United States, providing cold air, energy, spin, and moisture. And then in the low levels of the atmosphere, of course, you need cold air, and it's plenty cold out there right now. Temperatures are in the 20s, dew points are in the teens. So the atmosphere is plenty cold for mainly a snowstorm here in the lower Susquehanna Valley. And then you need those ingredients to come together just right as they reach the East Coast. And that's kind of where the lingering question mark is. We have a sense that there's actually going to be a pair of low pressures that are going to form off the East Coast. One right along the Jersey coast tomorrow afternoon, and one farther offshore. And depending which one of those kind of takes control of the event will really determine the outcome here tomorrow, midday, and afternoon. And so even though I'm very confident in the idea of a 1 to 2 foot snowstorm across the lower Susquehanna Valley, there's still some uncertainty. If the storm closer to the coast takes over, sometimes it can actually pull dry air in from the south, and the snow could shut off for a time tomorrow. So if there's a lull in the storm tomorrow for a few hours that little or no snow falls, you know what happened. And that, while not a for sure, is a possibility. Earlier, we talked about sleet. I think that's more of a threat east of the Susquehanna River, but places that mix in sleet, that will hold down accumulations. And then finally, we have a very sharp northern edge to this storm, and that's a hallmark of some of these big nor'easters, is that the way the two branches of the jet stream come together, you end up with a very sharp edge to the storm. And hence, I could see with this event where snowfall across the Susquehanna Valley could range from 2 feet near the Mason-Dixon line to, as you head up the Susquehanna River to, say, Williamsport, only getting, say, 2 to 4 inches. Well, that's only about 100 miles to go from 2 to 4 inches to 24 inches over 100 miles. You get a sense of that very sharp gradient north-south across Pennsylvania. And that's why this storm is very tricky. If everything sets up a little farther south, we could still get less than expected. But it's a tougher forecast for folks in State College. I've been communicating with some friends up there, and they're going to be right on that north edge of the storm and likely only get 3, 4, 5 inches up there, barring a northward shift at the last minute.
Yeah. And we got a first question. So how nerve-wracking is it to be predicting storms a week or more out in advance?
Yeah, well, first of all, you can't accurately forecast them a week in advance, but I'll tell you, it was a week ago Monday, I think that was like the 11th of January, that in my discussion that I issue to the public on my website, I said, hey, I see the seeds for a storm the end of next week meaning right now. So I saw the setup. You're able to look at the overall pattern. The trained eye can see the jet stream patterns, the location of ridges and troughs and blocking patterns, and you can kind of see that the players are on the field for a storm. Now, for them to come together and for things to evolve into a major nor'easter like they are, it's really not until the last 5 days that you get a high confidence. And you can go back to this past Monday, and that's really the day that we saw our computer simulations and some of the other factors that we look at lining up that gave us a pretty high confidence that a impactful event was on the way to the Mid-Atlantic region. Still, there's issues of that northern edge and just how much snow is going to fall along that northern edge of the snowstorm, say from central Pennsylvania up into southeastern New York and southern New England. It's still a nail biter for folks up there. We're going to get the snow, but for some folks just north of here, it's still a very close call. So yeah, it's pretty intense, and of course, if you're a professional, you get used to it. You know, it's kind of, that's what this business is all about. If there's high pressure over you, you kind of have a couple easy days at the office, but you know, then when there's severe weather or a big storm brewing, that makes things a little more intense. And of course, if you're you know, a forecaster that has contracts like we do, we forecast for PennDOT. You know, Penn State, they forecast for newspapers like the New York Times. You know, that really puts additional pressure on you because there's people using your forecast to make very important decisions. So you know, that's part of the professional weather forecasting business.
Yeah. So yeah. So where if you, yeah, where are you now? Where are you going to be this weekend? I guess. What is your day?
Right, well, yeah. I mean, during the school week, I'm working out of the Millersville Weather Center, and then I work out of my home office in the evenings, and that's what I'll be doing this weekend, tracking the storm. And people can follow updates on our website via Twitter. @MUWeather is my Twitter handle, and I post out maps and other useful information. And as the storm develops and actually evolves over top of the region, I'll tweet out little nitty-gritty details that give you some insight into what's going on, or maybe what is changing as the storm evolves. And also our website, if people haven't been to our Millersville Weather Information website, I would encourage them to check it out. If you Google Millersville Weather Center, that'll take you into our webpage where you can find forecasts that we generate. Myself as the professional meteorologist and our student meteorologists work together and generate forecasts for the webpage. And there's also various weather discussions and maps that are there that you can view as well. So it's a very good resource for your viewers who are weather enthusiasts or for decision makers that need quality weather information and to make decisions on closing businesses or schools. We have a lot of people around the region school administrators, business managers, and such that use us as their resource. One thing you'll find if you follow our forecasts is we try to be very objective and try to call it as we see it, and not get drawn into the building hype that can sometimes exceed the reality of a specific weather event. And we try to forecast most likely outcomes versus worst case outcomes. It just may be that this time around, the reality, the outcome, is one of the worst case outcomes if you're one of those folks that gets 2 feet of snow.
And got another question here. So what kind of snow should we expect? Snowman building snow? Is it going to be packable snow?
Sure. Yeah, that's a very good question. Well, to start, it's going to be a drier snow, not baby powder dry, but it's going to be a little drier to start because we do have an Arctic air mass out there, but there's no fresh Arctic air feeding into the storm as there is sometimes. So as the storm progresses and warm air from the Atlantic gets involved, that will make for a little wetter snow. It's not going to be like mashed potatoes snow, that wet sopping snow, fortunately, but I'd say kind of in the continuum of dry snow to real wet snow, we're kind of somewhere in the middle with this event. And if you're shoveling a foot or two of snow Saturday night or Sunday morning, it's still going to feel heavy and backbreaking. So take it easy, folks, when you're out there dealing with the snow.
Yeah. And so we got this storm coming. How about later this month? Is there anything? What's the rest of the month looking like?
Sure. Yeah, that's a real good question. Well, first up, I see a brief warming trend early next week. It's not going to get hot. We're not going to melt off all the snow. But I do think on Monday, high temperatures will get into the upper 30s and maybe even the low 40s on Tuesday, with a rain shower Tuesday afternoon. There's actually a clipper going by to our north on Tuesday, and that's going to draw warm air up into southern Pennsylvania. So that'll help to clean up whatever snow is lingering on the roads or icy patches. Monday and Tuesday, a lot of that will be able to melt off, at least in places that get sunshine. Then I think some seasonably cold air moves in here the second half of next week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I don't see another major storm in the queue right now. That being said, we have a very active jet stream. This is an El Nino winter, a very strong El Nino. That's a natural warming that occurs periodically in the central Pacific. That's what's enhancing the jet stream this winter across the country. And that enhanced jet stream means two things. More of a storm track, a stronger storm track. That's contributing to this storm that we're going to be getting this weekend. But also, that enhanced jet stream off the Pacific brings Pacific air across the country. That Pacific air means rain on the West Coast, heavy snow in the Sierra and the Rockies. But then when that Pacific air descends off the Rockies, it warms up. And that is why December was so warm. We had the warmest December on record here in Pennsylvania. And even in January, despite some cooler air, we had some days in the 50s this month because of that Pacific air coming across the country. So heading into February, I see us in a pattern where the Arctic air and the Pacific air takes alternating shots at our region. And so you can get a warm spell where it gets into the 40s for a couple days, and then the cool air filters in for 2 or 3 days, and then the cycle repeats itself. So I would anticipate that kind of roller coaster ride through February. And I would also say we're not done with snow. This is, in all likelihood, the big event for this winter season. But I think there'll be other opportunities for maybe some moderate snow or lighter snow again, February into early March. We still have a lot of winter ahead of us.
And for you as a meteorologist, is this like your Super Bowl?
Yeah, I've made that comparison. I mean, these big events, we just talked about how, a foot or more of snow. If you look at 50 years of snowfall data, about 4 times a decade do you get events that are this big in terms of snow. Mm-hmm. So they're pretty rare events, and so you have to kind of dig in and enjoy them and learn from them. I often say that snowstorms are like snowflakes. No two are the same. So even for a veteran forecaster like myself, I've been doing this for 30 years professionally. and I've seen many, many snowstorms. Every storm has some wrinkles. There's always a surprise or two. And so on any given storm, I tell the students, I say, hey, let's just have some fun. And what could be some of those surprises that occur? Maybe an unexpected changeover. I don't think that's going to happen in New York, but it's not out of the question. Dry air can often wrap into these big storms from the south. When that happens, it can shut the snow off for a few hours. We talked about that earlier. You get kind of a lull in the middle of the storm. People are like, what happened? And then the snow starts back up again. And then the final thing that's quite interesting is these large synoptic scale snowstorms can have mesoscale snow bands that develop, kind of like thunderstorms organize in lines in the spring and summer. You get a line of thunderstorms. Well, it's not that extreme, but a large winter storm like this, you can get convective elements that organize in narrow bands. And there could be a few spots in York County in the lower Susquehanna Valley that get a few rumbles of thunder late tonight or during the day Saturday. And if you get under one of those thunder snows, those bursts of snow, you could pick up a quick 4 inches in 1 hour. Whereas 1 to 2 inches an hour is what will be more common with this storm, or a 1/2 to 2 inches an hour. You get a thunder snow shower over you that it can be blinding, zero visibility snow for an hour, and that can really push you over the top in terms of your snow totals. So that's something that is beyond our ability to forecast where those types of mesoscale snow bands are going to line up. They're an act of God with these storms, and those are one of the surprises, is to see where they set up. I think it's more likely they set up just to our south over central Maryland and northern Virginia, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if there was a few bands of thunder snow that set up even into the lower Susquehanna Valley.
And in terms of the timing of the storm, is there in terms of the forecasting and knowing what's going to happen, is there a crucial time for you to get us, to know like, oh, this is shaping up exactly like we thought, or
yeah,
it a little differently? Is there a time that's going to be?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's really until, the low pressure center right now is still down over the mountains of North Carolina. Mm-hmm. It developed yesterday down around Louisiana as a very weak system, lots of moisture, lots of dynamics, but the low pressure itself wasn't very strong yesterday. It's now slowly strengthening as it's tracking toward the mid-Atlantic coast, but it doesn't actually reach the coast and form that coastal nor'easter until late tonight and into the day on Saturday. And then again, when it does get out over the ocean, we think there's going to be actually 2 low pressure centers that are kind of competing with each other. So those are subtle but critical factors that until the system gets out over the ocean, and again, that's early tomorrow morning, there can still be some shifts and some surprises. Okay. So while I think the most likely outcome is what I presented to you, there can still be some last minute tweaks. These systems do not follow the numerical guidance, the computer models perfectly. The computer models do an amazing job sometimes, but there's still typically some surprises in terms of where those heavy snow bands set up, where a dry slot intrudes, where a northern edge of the storm sets up. Those are all things that we think we have a good handle on, but yes, we do watch the storm vigilantly as it's progressing and as it develops off the coast, and I'll update the forecast over the weekend if needed.
Okay, cool. Well, I think we're running almost out of time, but you can just tell me, what advice would you give to people who are in your community?
Well, if you need to run any errands and get any supplies, now is the time. You want to get out there between now and sunset. Again, the light snow will be arriving here across York County from south to north. The first flakes could be as early as 4 o'clock. You'll see it on radar probably in the next couple of hours overhead, but with the very dry air in the low levels, it takes some time for those first flakes to reach the ground. So probably not until 4, 5, 6 p.m. do you have some light snow spreading across the county. So slow down if you're traveling this evening, and then the steadier, heavier snow that comes in more later tonight and through mid-afternoon tomorrow, and then the snow tapers off as we head into Saturday night, and by Sunday it's just the wind, some lingering drifting, and the cleanup.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much, Eric. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anytime, Ed.
Great. Thank you. And thanks to you, viewers. Bye.